We're exploring Vermont's hidden history at the Rokeby Museum in Ferrisburg. I'm with Steve Perkins, the Executive Director of the Vermont Historical Society.
So Rokeby was the home of noted abolitionist Rowland Robinson. So why don't we go inside and learn about it?
Let's do it. So it says here we call it the Underground Railroad, but it wasn't a train and it didn't go underground. So what was it?
Well, so the executive director of Rokeby, Jane Williamson, has come here today, and she's going to walk us through this great new exhibit about the Underground Railroad in Vermont. So let's go see Jane.
Excellent. Good morning, Jane.
Hi there.
What can you tell us about the Underground Railroad and its significance to Vermont?
Really what it was a journey that slaves took from slavery in the South to freedom in the North. It was difficult, it was dangerous, and not always successful. Some of those folks made it all the way to Vermont and were here at Rokeby, especially in the 1830s and 1840s.
Were there a lot of people in Vermont helping slaves? Was it limited? I really don't know.
It was relatively limited. Vermont has a proud history of abolition, which is earned. But the abolitionists were always a tiny minority anywhere there was an abolitionist movement. So in Vermont, we know of a few folks around this area, the Rogerses, the Wickers, some of the Robinsons' close associates, their relatives in Montpelier. But this idea that there was an underground railroad stop on every block in the state of Vermont is a little overblown. These are two generations of the Robinsons. Thomas Robinson was the first member of the family. He came from Newport, Rhode Island to Vermont in the early 1790s, purchased this property in 1793. This is his son, Rowland Thomas, who was born here in 1796 with his wife, Rachel. The Robinsons were Quakers. I think you can see from these daguerreotypes how plainly they're dressed. Rowland and Rachel were radical abolitionists. They were very devout Christians. They were very devout Quakers. But the radical abolitionists had a very expansive view of Christianity. They basically just believed in the Golden Rule and the Bill of Rights. And that was about all they needed. It was clear to them that slavery was wrong. It was not only wrong, it was a sin. And Rowland, Rachel, and the other radical abolitionists in the Northeast demanded immediate emancipation of all slaves. They demanded full rights for freed people.
What did Rowland and Rachel and other abolitionists do to get the word out?
A lot. They agitated, they organized, they created abolition societies, and they also did an incredible amount of publishing. One of the things that really impressed me is how literate they were.
And it looks like they had some former slaves came and spoke?
Yes, a liberated slave, you can see here, spoke in Washington County, and this is a great convention, which was right here in Ferrisburg, and it was Frederick Douglass. This was 1843. Nobody knew who Frederick Douglass was yet. He had only escaped from slavery in 1838 and began to speak in 1841. But this was an opportunity. They offered these speakers if you'd organize a meeting. So Rowland organized a meeting. He wasn't going to miss that chance. And Douglass spoke twice right here in Ferrisburg.
Jane, you hear a lot of stories about hidden rooms and secret passageways with the Underground Railroad, but it sounds like maybe it's not necessarily the case.
Well, in Vermont, no, it doesn't really seem to be. Scholars who work on this always talk about the Underground Railroad in history and in memory, because what we can learn, what we've shown in this exhibit about the history of the Underground Railroad is often in conflict with what people think about the Underground Railroad or the memory of it. Popular culture will tell you, oh, there's a back staircase and there's a hidden room. And in Vermont, that wasn't really so. We call our exhibit Free and Safe because the fugitives who came here were quite safe. But that doesn't mean that those stories didn't crop up here. And I think that's partly why it is so popular, it is so well known, it makes a really great story. What we've tried to do in our exhibit is bring out the actual people, tell you something real about these folks, because to us that makes a much better story.
Exploring Vermont's hidden history.